Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Launch School podcast. I'm Karis, and later on in the show, I'll be sharing some announcements and upcoming events. But before we get into that, we have a special Bytes episode lined up. If you recall from last season, a Bytes episode is where we ask a specific question and take snippets of students and staff responses to that question and join them together to create the episode. The great thing about Bytes episode is that it connects you directly to the community. You know, one of the challenges going to an online school is that you don't always know if other people are going through the kinds of feelings and hurdles that you're going through. This is why it's important to hear the voices of those who are along the same journey as you. You just feel a lot less alone. So I've asked a few of the folks at Launch School, what were some of your biggest takeaways from this year? And to get us started, I have Chris here with me. Hi, Chris. So what were some of your biggest takeaways from this year?
Hey, thanks for inviting me to this.
No worries.
I think the first couple things that come to my mind with regards to this year is that I think for me, 2022 felt different at Launch School.
Right.
And one of the ways that it felt different was that for the first time, I feel like the bus factor is no longer one, which if you don't know what the bus factor is, that's just like, if I get hit by a bus, you know, the whole thing goes down, right? That's a bus factor of one. So low bus factor is not a good thing. I feel like right now, if I got hit by a bus, Launch School will continue.
Not that we want that.
Right. Fingers crossed. But Launch School will not only continue, but it is set in a certain trajectory. It has enough stability. It has enough community support. It has enough everything to continue to grow and improve. And in that way, it just felt different for me this year. Like this is the first year that I felt that way about Launch School. So a big part of it is, you know, just the people we have, right? Like this vibrant community.
Absolutely.
You can tell there's so much care. There's so much self-support. The type of people that come here tend to help each other. And I'm going to use the L word here. You know, there's a lot of love at Launch School. You know, there just is. And in online settings, sometimes it's hard to feel, but I feel it. I feel it. So that to me has been like mentally one of the biggest things. So another piece of this is our staff, you know, and yourself included, right? Our staff, they've been here forever, right? Like Pete's been here from 6 years ago. Surgeon's been here 4 or 5 years. I've lost count. Yeah. Max and Nick are working on Capstone, but they were students here before. And as students, they were here for like 2 years. And then they worked, and now they're back. Everyone's been here for such a long time. They know what to do. They understand what we're trying to do here. You know, we have our philosophy. We have our way. We have just everything kind of builds towards that. And even the t-shirts, I feel like that's such an inside joke for us. The t-shirts that you made, like go fast with a slot. I show my dad some of these t-shirts and he was just like, no one gets it. No one understands that symbol. You know, you need like Launch School on the front. I'm like, no, that's the whole point. It's like an inside joke for us.
It's for the community. Yeah.
Right. It's for us. We giggle amongst ourselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I look at these, I'm just like laughing. And that's what we have here, right? We're a group and we're a community. And so I definitely feel 2022 felt different. We had the largest capstone cohort we've ever had.
Wow.
And it was awesome. It was smooth. And so I just in general feel really, really, really good about where Launch School is. I just could not be feeling better about where we're at as a company, but also like as a training institution. Like the idea of like learning well, learning deeply is more important now than ever. Right?
Absolutely.
And just the people we have from the students to our staff, it's just a tremendous feeling of gratitude. And I think there's just a feeling of like humility, just humbled by that responsibility. So sometimes there is a weight of responsibility, but at the same time, I know that what we're doing here is the right way and we're able to get results for it. And when I see the community, the people there, I know we're doing the right thing, you know, so yeah, it's interesting you asked that question. What's the takeaway for 2022? Yeah, mainly is Launch School is going to launch. It's going to go with or without me at this point.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, those are great, fantastic takeaways. And it's always really nice to hear from you, hear what your thoughts are about the community, about the staff and where Launch School is heading. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your biggest takeaways with us.
Yeah. And I'll just say like, you know, we have mentors in Capstone. Like we bring our alumni back to be mentors. They care. It's not just like they graduate and they take off. some people do that, of course. You don't have to care if you don't want to, but a lot do.
Yeah.
And a lot actually care about what we're doing here. And that gives me more confidence than anything that we're on the right track. We're going to be here for a very, very long time. And honestly, I feel as good as I've ever felt about law school, the future of law school, what we're doing here, how we're teaching, how we're learning our pedagogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. I couldn't agree more. There's just something about these 4 metaphoric walls of launch school. Like when you enter, you are just a part of this great community that gives back. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Always great to hear from the founder of Launch School. So just before we get into the Bytes segment, I just want to add that you might hear some of the same answers from the community. And if you do, I want you to pay close attention to them, because if you haven't already incorporated them into your studies, it might be worth doing so in the future. Now let's hear what the Launch School community had to say.
My name is Leah Davis, and I'm an LS 215. And one of my biggest takeaways this year has been the importance of studying with others. I had forgotten about that because the last 3 courses in the back end I'm on the Ruby track, by the way, it was 175, 180, and 185. And that's pretty isolating because you're pretty much on your own, building your apps and stuff. And so getting to JS 210, I rediscovered the importance of studying with others. And it really helped because having someone that you can discuss the concepts with as you're learning them each week, I found that I really retained a lot of the course material just better. And then come assessment prep time, most of the concepts were already ironed out, and it was just a matter of practicing. So I really enjoy that, and it's something I highly recommend. And the other takeaway I have is that you will never stop comparing yourself to others. It never goes away. When you're studying and you see people pass you who are behind you, or even just finish way before you, I don't know. It never goes away. And so what's important is how you choose to manage it. When it does come up, to be kind to yourself, to remind yourself that we're all on separate journeys and kind of keep your eyes on your own paper. Yeah, those are my 2 biggest takeaways.
Hi, my name is Nick Miller, and I'm a Launch School staff member working on Capstone. I'm also a Capstone alumni. My biggest takeaway this year from being at Launch School is to approach everything with curiosity. I actually have a piece of 3x5 card taped to my monitor that just says, "Be curious." I find that while I'm working on something, sometimes I notice my brain unproductively jumping several steps ahead of where I'm at. Or when I'm talking with somebody, sometimes my mind is already starting to form opinions about where this conversation's going before I even finish hearing the other person out. Reminding myself to be curious automatically puts the brakes on that. It reminds me to stop, be open, and be receptive to the current moment. What am I actually doing right now? What is this other person trying to tell me right now? One of the habits from Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is to seek first to understand, then to be understood. In the course of my first full year working at Launch School, I find myself interacting with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. People will often pleasantly surprise me if I just stay curious and give them the space to say what they want to say, rather than being concerned with interjecting myself and my own thoughts prematurely into the conversation. One other takeaway from this year is just simple excitement. Working with students in Capstone, I get to have a front row seat to seeing people get offers for jobs that literally change the course of their career and lives. This is the culmination of years of hard work and dedication, and seeing that payoff at the end is immensely rewarding. I get excited for each person that lands a new job at a great tech company.
My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm a recent Capstone grad. I completed Capstone at the end of August, and I now work at a company called BrowserStack. My biggest takeaway from this year at Launch School is that I'm much more capable than my self-doubt tells me. I had moments this year, a lot of moments this year, where I thought I wouldn't be able to do something. I worried I wouldn't be able to finish core. When I was in Capstone, I had a lot of moments where I thought I was too dumb or too slow or just would not be able to understand something enough. And then after finishing Capstone, I had moments where I worried I wouldn't be able to get a job. I know that we have had 100% job placements, but maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm somehow not good enough. And even though somebody let me into Capstone, I am not able to do this and get a job. None of these fears proved to be true. I'm now a full-time software engineer, and I make 2.5 times as much as I've ever made in my entire life. But even more than that, I've learned that the self-doubts and fears and worries that I have about myself just aren't true. So to anybody listening, I want to let you know that it's okay to have those doubts and those fears and those worries about yourself. But if you want to do something, just keep going, because you can do a lot more than those fears allow you to believe.
Hi, my name is JD Fortune. I'm a student at Launch School currently enrolled in RB 130. I joined back in April, and one of the first things that stood out was how much they encourage the students to get involved, to interact with other students on Slack or in the Spot, participate in study sessions, and start writing blogs, and really be active in their own learning. I'm kind of shy, so it was intimidating to think about the level of involvement that's recommended. Reaching out to people I don't know and doing things like a one-on-one study session or speaking out in group sessions was really uncomfortable for me, but the emphasis from everything I'd read made it seem like it would be really helpful here and later as a programmer. First few times I reached out, and showing up at a one-on-one study session was a little scary, but it goes away pretty quickly. And I do honestly think that I learn better when I combine reading by myself and getting together with other students. Everyone here is super helpful, and the amount of people that will drop what they're doing and take the time to either answer a question on Slack or work with you in the Spot is staggering and makes you realize how strong and supportive this community is. Tackling that initial discomfort and being more active in my learning, and now even leading sessions at Spot, which is something I never imagined I would do. Like, I was so terrified the first few times. But I think something the school does really well, whether it's intentional or just a side effect, is getting you to push yourself out of your comfort zone and do some of these things that you might find a little daunting. After almost 10 years of being out of a learning environment, I didn't know how it was going to go, trying to be back in school, trying to pass these intense assessments. But I feel like this school helps you grow into who you need to become to be a strong developer in the real world. And sometimes I might feel like I'm going a little slower than I'd like, but I just remind myself what I'm doing and to stick on the path. I guess my biggest takeaway that I've had since joining Launch School is to reach out and get involved with the students, really try and immerse yourself in this community, and also try and be kind and helpful. It really goes a long way. I think that's the best way to feel like you're a part of this program. Other than that, just remember that mastery takes time, and it takes a different amount of time for every person, because we're all coming here from different backgrounds and different skills. So just stick to the path, put in the work, and try not to judge yourself based off of anyone else. One of the biggest benefits of an online school like this is that you get to go at your own pace, but something that this school does well is promoting the idea that if you just keep moving along the path, you can get where you want to go. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for your time.
Hi, my name is Daniel Ebron, and I am currently in JS 109 interview portion. The biggest takeaway this year while being at Launch School for me is to appreciate the bad days as much as the good days. As much as good times, there will also come bad times in this journey, and to appreciate the bad times, I learned I needed to be able to find some good in the bad times. So let's say in instances where I'm going through the material and it doesn't make sense, I ask myself, am I ever going to get this? Or in instances where I feel like I'm not progressing and I question why I'm doing this. Why am I putting myself through such a hard process? Or in instances where I don't pass an assessment and I start doubting myself and I ask, is this worth it? Through these bad times, I find the good, and I instead tell myself, yes, I'm going through bad times, but I wouldn't have met so many kind and smart people. I wouldn't have been exposed to top quality material in the core curriculum. I know within myself that no matter what happens, as long as I can, I'll keep going till I finish. So these bad times are just for now. The lesson of the year for me is to appreciate the bad days as much as the good days. I have to remind myself of this often, and when I do find it a little easier to keep going.
Hello, my name is Gary Ledwith, and I'm currently a student at Launch School in LS 181. So my biggest takeaway for 2022 is that Launch School levels the playing field regardless of your background. So I've struggled with performance anxiety throughout my life, which led to unfulfilled potential. And this performance anxiety was quite rampant in the earlier courses as I progressed through Launch School's curriculum. Specifically when meeting new students on video calls or attending Spot sessions or having to code in front of other people as I prepared for the RB109 interview, I was terrified of them all and buckled under the weight of anxiety on a few occasions. But by reaching out to, many different students to practice live coding in 101, I met some fantastic people who really helped me manage my anxiety more efficiently, and with a lot of hard work, aced the RB 109 interview. Not only that, but I'm currently a spot lead and actively try to lead a spot session each week, which has been a transformative experience for me. It's really helped me develop my soft skills and build my confidence. And thanks to Launch School's mastery-based learning approach and absolutely amazing community, I found ways to thrive despite performance anxiety. And I'm currently writing an article on my experience, which I plan to publish soon.
Hi, this is Pete Hansen. I'm the senior TA here at Launch School. I've been around here now for about 6.5 years or so. Something like that anyway. I think my biggest takeaway from this past year, doesn't have a lot to do with learning, other than about learning about myself. But I think the big takeaway here for me is that I'm learning to rely on other people to do things rather than trying to do everything myself. That's always been a hard thing for me. I tend to want to do everything myself, and that ends up being not so good because I don't always finish things in a timely manner. So I'm working on trying to rely on people more to do everything as much as possible. Thank you.
I have been a TA for quite some time now on the Ruby track, and I really enjoy helping people. I'm currently in the capstone prep, and I'm going to start in January. This past year, I've been doing more interviews, and I wanted to focus on how you can do better in interviews. A while ago, I was taking guitar lessons, and my guitar teacher taught me a lesson that really helped me do better public speaking, doing interviews, anywhere where I might feel anxious. She told me to look at the ways that I feel anxious. Next, she told me to look at the ways that you feel excited. The symptoms between excitement and anxiety are practically the same. Your body is getting ready for action. The difference is how our mind interprets those symptoms. We can use the default reaction, which in the case of an interview is likely going to be anxiety, or we can take a proactive approach and think about ways that we can be excited. Some reasons why I get excited to go to an interview is that I get to show my skills. I get to solve some fun problems, and that passing means moving on to new material. I don't know about you, but studying for the exams is one of the hardest parts of the courses because you have to have understanding, a mastery level understanding of the material. Whereas learning new material is exciting. You get to learn new things. You get to see the world in a different way. And there's no pressure to understand everything perfectly at this point. Take some time to think about reasons why you're excited for your next interview. Some other things that might help is to practice your PDI. I love the PDI process. Having a set pattern to go through while I'm solving a problem helps me when I start to freeze up because I have an error in my code. I have a process. When I get an error, then I circle back to this part of the process and I continue to work forward. TAs are on your side. As I'm doing your interview or another TA is doing your interview, and we might be silent, we might be taking notes, but we're rooting for you. We want you to do well. I hope this information has helped and that the advice from my guitar teacher about choosing to be excited rather than anxious will help as well.
My name is Zach. I'm in JavaScript 2.15 on the Ruby track right now. My biggest takeaway from spending this year at Launch School is how important it is and how helpful it is to have a community of people that are passionate and motivated to accomplish their goal. I'm a career transitioner, and I kind of expected that this process of starting from absolute zero and learning a new skill would be lonely and daunting and a slog most of the time. And what I found is the experience has not been that at all. And I think the reason for that is because of the community at Launch School. If you look at the substance of what we do every day, it is kind of not very exciting, right? Grinding out tons of exercises that, oftentimes it's hard to see how those exercises connect with the bigger goal you have. But whenever things get hard, you can just jump on Slack and interact with tons of other students who are super motivated and very driven to accomplish the same goal as you. And I just think that having other people to work together alongside of when you're doing something challenging like this is just It's been so helpful. So yeah, my biggest takeaway is how important it is to be a part of a community of people that are really driven to accomplish their goal.
Hello, my name is Rajan and I am Launch School staff member. So I've been working with Capstone core students this year, and a couple of advice I can give to students to improve their Launch School experience are, so first, try not to compare with others. And I know this is easier said than done, so I'm going to suggest an alternative. Compare with your previous self. So do the work consistently every day if possible, and then at the end of the week, write down where you were last week and how much more you know. If you find that you have learned a lot, great, you're on the right path. If that's not the case, you can try to find ways to improve your study habits, either study more or study more efficiently. You can even watch our Launch School Study Tips workshop. Anyhow, I believe this is a healthy comparison, because comparing with others is like comparing apples and oranges. It doesn't really make sense. The second thing is to try to be kind to others and help them. So along your journey in core and in Capstone, some students will struggle in areas where you excel. And my advice is to help them, teach them, as by teaching others certain topics, you're learning those topics even better. And I believe this is a win-win situation. And my final takeaway is about Rodney, my dear nemesis. I've realized that I haven't been joking on your account enough this year, so I promise that I'll try to make it up to you in 2023.
Hey, so yeah, my name's Tyler Fry. I'm currently finishing up RB175 network applications, kind of working through the last project there, getting close to finishing up the back end. Over the past 6 months in launch school, I've learned an absolute ton. But really, I feel like the most important things that I've learned are not actually the technical ones, but more how to actually approach studying and learning. When I was in high school and college, I was far from what you would call studious. I always learned pretty quickly. Things came fairly easily to me. And, I'd learned to kind of skate by with minimum effort. But I think, as we all know, that doesn't really fly at launch school. With the focus on mastery and difficulty of assessments and that, and between Barbara Oakley's course and book, applying everything I've learned, I think I can call myself studious now. Given that, I'd say that my biggest takeaways are, first, process over product. Something that Barbara Oakley stresses a lot in her book. Really, in the past, when I look at a large task like taking a course, reading a book, or like playing a long story-driven game, something like that, I'd kind of think about how much time and effort would go into completing the entire thing, the whole product. I'd be overwhelmed and I'd really never start it. But by taking things day by day, focusing on process over product, doing a little bit at a time, I've been able to make it to the back, the final stretch of the back end course. I've been able to read multiple several 100-page novels I wanted to read for years. So I think having this process over product mindset's really changed me a lot. Secondly, I'd say that I've learned how to actually study. In the past, I didn't really have a process or a system or good study habits or anything. But when I first came to launch school, I listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of Medium articles on the subject, and I kind of slowly took pieces here and there from other students on how to develop my own system. So that's what I'd really say my major takeaways I've had from launch school are in the past 6 months, past year. I think that these could be even more important than the technical skills I'm learning because, the mindset of process over product, approach to studying, these are things that I'll be able to use for a lifetime, really. I mean, the technical skills, I'll likely be able to use those for a lifetime as well. But these other skills will help me learn and grow even more quickly in the future.
Hey everyone, this is Joe Gilliam, and I'm currently in Capstone working with my team to prepare the presentation for our project. My biggest takeaway from launch school this year is that trusting the process enables so much growth, much more than I would have been able to accomplish on my own. Before starting Capstone, I had a career as a school psychologist working with children struggling to learn. While I've always loved technology, I'd never been able to create anything meaningful on my own because I jumped from tutorial to tutorial. Since starting launch school, I've built a solid foundation, allowing me to understand technical concepts at a much deeper level. On top of that, I've had so many unique and exciting opportunities, like becoming a teaching assistant and getting to interview students from all over the world. Even within the span of a few weeks in Capstone, I've been able to seriously accelerate my learning. We've covered so many topics from algorithms to microservices to front-end architectures, And not only do I know what things are, I'm able to have technical conversations about them. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what 2023 has in store for me. Happy holidays.
Hello, my name is Ben Peralt, and I'm a current capstone student. And my big takeaway from this year at Launch School is the community. I've learned to lean on other people and to support one another in a way that I haven't before. This journey is challenging and it can be isolating, and the bumps in the road are just so much softer, and the process is so much more fun when I've shared it with other people. I wish I hadn't waited until the second half of core to get to know the people in this program. The community is just so full of kind and friendly and bright people that have lifted me up, and I'm so grateful for it. So if you're considering reaching out to find a study partner or a study group or try something new with the people in this community, I highly, highly encourage you to not delay and get started right away. Another key takeaway for me has been enjoying the process. Looking back at core from the perspective of capstone, I wish I had relished the time I spent learning and studying more than I did. I had a tendency to feel pretty anxious about assessments and not moving quick enough and getting to the finish line. And I realize now that there was so much incredible learning going on, and I really enjoyed myself quite a lot. And it would be nice to have been more aware of it in the moment and not so stressed. So I wish all of you a very stress-free study process for the rest of the year and a great learning year in the new year.
And that was our very last student response. Gosh, so many interesting and insightful reflections from all of the folks at Launch School. Before I move on to the next session, I just thought that I would also take the time to share with you my biggest takeaway this year, which is this idea that you are more capable than you think you are. You know, working at Launch School, I'm always thinking about how to improve the student experience. But there have been times where I've asked myself, am I able to make this situation, this idea work? Can it be done? And I remember Chris suggested that I move away from saying, can it be done, to how can it be done? This doesn't just apply to the work that I do now, but for all of my study at Launch School. I've realized when you ask yourself, can it be done? You're introducing doubt, and then you start arguing for your limitations. And I remember this really great quote from Richard Bach that says that when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. So by adding the word how to can it be done, we're no longer thinking about whether something is possible or whether I'm capable or not. We're now asking a more productive question, which is, how do we make something happen? So if you found these community takeaways helpful, feel free to come back to this episode anytime and give it another listen. It might just be what you need to stay motivated. So with our Bytes segment now over, it's time to leave you with some announcements and quick reminders about the latest events at Launch School. Registration for our all-new set of student capstone presentations are now open. Whether you're aiming for capstone or just curious about the kinds of real-world engineering problems that are solved at Launch School, check out the Launch School events page for presentation signups and more information. The Introduction to JavaScript book now has been updated with all kinds of new material, including new exercises, discussions, diagrams, and more. You can access this book from the Launch School bookshelf, which I will link for you in the show notes. Also, if you're preparing for the LS216 assessment, Launch School now has a new set of practice problems that are designed to help you better prepare not only for the interview, but for also future job interviews. The Programming Essentials workshops now have a brand new home at launchschool.com/workshops. Here, you'll find an entire list of upcoming workshops that are available to attend. I believe the last one is on December 15th, and it teaches you all about how to prepare for assessments and other Launch School study tips. The Launch School salaries page now has a new look. What is really interesting is that the page now has a full breakdown of capstone salaries cohort information. If you want to know in detail about the kinds of salaries Launch School graduates are getting and the average times they're hired, this is the page to check out. That's launchschool.com/salaries. And get your Christmas shopping done early at the Launch School merch store. You can now study in comfort and style with all kinds of programmer staples, including t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, stickers, hats, and more. With new Christmas and motivational animal designs available, make sure to hop on over to shop.launchschool.com. And that's it from me. Everything mentioned here today can be found in the show notes on podcast.launchschool.com. And if you have an idea for an interview or anything podcast related, you can reach out to us at our URL, launchschool.com/podcast-request.